Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney. Today's video, we're going to be doing our second video in my series titled Privacy in Practice. So I am going to be on screen today because I want to show you my own process. The first video that I did for the Privacy in Practice series was a review of my own privacy notice, the one that exists on my privacy website. So if you're interested in watching the first video, you can take a look at that video. Today's video, we're going to be reviewing consent management platforms. So the reason we're going to be looking at consent management platforms is twofold. So for my own website, I do have the use of cookies, but as it stands right now, the use of cookies are limited to those that are essential. So the current cookies on my site are essential cookies only. But if I want to introduce non-essential cookies to be able to track certain pieces of information, I'm going to obtain consent. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, you know I've talked about what different geographies require in terms of obtaining certain personal data identifiers on individuals. Now, as it currently stands, there might be information that I want to learn about who is visiting my website. I might want to know in which geographies are these individuals visiting my site and how can I market better to them. That is one of the main reasons that businesses choose to use things that are non-essential cookies, like social media cookies or advertising cookies, right? They're very valuable to businesses and I do run a business. So today we're going to be exploring consent management platforms for cookies so that one, I can introduce non-essential cookies to my site, and two, I can obtain the appropriate legal basis. So I really want to start breaking down the importance of data protection for businesses. I've said in many of my videos, and I said this severally in 2025, it's incredibly important to understand that personal data protection is not an activity that is limited to large organizations. There's lots of different pieces of statute that impact businesses of every size and their obligations with respect to protecting personal data. I will give some background about my firm. I am a law firm owner, right? I have a business entity. Although my name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney, I have a legal entity that I run my professional services out of. That is called the Data Privacy Lawyer. When people visit my site, individuals, right, I have a responsibility as a legal entity to abide by statute that I have obligations under my legal entity. There's statute that dictates how I can process the personal information of my website visitors. There is statute that dictates how I can process the personal data of my prospective customers. There is statute that dictates how I can process the personal data of my existing customers. They're all individuals. People I'm talking to are not business entities. They are individuals within that business entity. And because I have my own law firm, I have responsibilities under statute as to how that data is protected. Today, we're going to be looking at cookies. This privacy in practice video is about cookies. We're going to be reviewing consent management platforms that exist in order to collect records of anybody that consents to my law firm's use of non-essential cookies. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing today. So I will be looking away at the screen. I wanted to show my face so we can talk through the process. I also want to add a little bit of background about why cookies constitute personal data and why I also want to go in a bit more detail as to why personal data legislation is not something that is exclusive for larger organizations. So the definitions are very important, right? One of the things we do as lawyers is we interpret statute and we provide insights into what statute requires and how that in turn results in obligations on businesses, right? So the definition of personal data includes something called cookies. And if you've watched any of my reviews in the past, I've done lots of reviews on cookie notices and process of obtaining consent that different organizations have been doing. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look. I also want to talk about myself today and my firm. We're doing privacy in practice. I think it's important to realize that privacy affects every business, irrespective of size. What we're going to do is I'm just going to type it into Google. We're going to look at Google and look at different consent management platforms that I could consider for my own firm. And what I hope is that you watch this video before I implement the consent management platform. And hopefully you'll understand why it exists on my page and what's of importance to me and my business. Okay, so as I type it into Google, I'll keep talking. I want to talk about the types of identifiers that I collect through my firm. So if you go onto my firm site, you'll see that I have a contact us form. I have 3 different boxes. I have a name box, I have a email box, and then I also have a free flow box, which I talked about in the first privacy in practice video. So if you want to know why I use a free flow box, check that out in the first video. And so there's 3 ways in which I collect data from the contact form. In addition to that, I have a Calendly link, which allows different prospective clients to set up calls to discuss their privacy compliance issues or privacy compliance questions. It could be anything. There's lots of different ways that clients can reach out to me, but I would say that the limit to the personal data that I collect is limited to information that is required in order to provide services to businesses. I do not collect any sensitive personal data under statute. And just also for confirmation, my firm is based out of the District of Columbia. So I wanted to put that context in place because it's incredibly important. I've talked in other reviews about how geography matters and the obligations that companies have based on statute. Now, I am not sure where my consumers come from, right? I think one of the most important questions businesses should ask about their products and services is, where do I offer my products and service? My service is legal services, okay? And the legal services I provide are related to data protection matters. But in thinking about the services that I provide, I need to think about where could different individuals come and visit my website, and what are my obligations as a business to process their name, email address, and if they set up a call with me on Calendly, where will they be situated, right? Because the way that the privacy legislation works is, in a lot of cases, it relies on where an individual is resident. But there are many privacy laws that rely on other factors. Now, you would need to seek that out based on the products and services that you provide, but I'm using myself as an example because this is privacy in practice. So I just typed into Google cookie consent management platform. Okay, so we've got CookieYes, number 1 consent management platform. Okay, so we're going to evaluate the offerings they've got here. Why CookieYes is the right fit for your website. Okay, fully customizable banner. So in many of my videos, I have talked about the banner, the preference center, and then the ongoing button on a website that needs to exist in order for consumers to be able to withdraw their consent as easy as it was for them to opt in, right? We've got to be able to opt in just as easily as we opt out. If you are interested in my full breakdown on what consent constitutes under the data protection law, I have many videos that I've talked about what constitutes consent. If you want more information about what a cookie consent management workflow may look like, I've also done videos on that as well. Today we're focusing on my website. So we've got the banner, right? And you can customize it. Now, why is it important to think about customizing the website? Because we need to think about geography. Geography and statute in that geography is going to influence what our banner must say, okay? And that's why it's very important for it to be customizable, right? I gave the example of an organization that has FCRA obligations in the United States, right? They're located in Singapore, but their products require them to have compliance under the FCRA in the United States. So the banner that I would need in order to process personal data belonging to consumers in Singapore may be different to an organization that has obligations to customize their banner for Brazilian residents, okay? Simply select the banner, customize it, and copy and paste the copy to the website. Our CMS, which I'm not sure what that means, guides will assist you every step of the way, okay? So we can see the banner, automated consent management, from cookie auto blocking to scheduled monthly scanning and centralized consent log. You can automate cookie management and let us do the work for you. So one of the offerings that I have for clients is, this is the privacy in practice video for me. But what I do want to say is that when I do reviews for clients, I always make a recommendation based on how their business operates. And this is one of the reasons why I always have consults with clients, because data protection and a business's compliance obligations are not something that can be replicated business to business. It is something that is very niche and specific to how your organization operates, because we have geographical implications, right? I have geographical implications whether I like it or not. If somebody is visiting my site from the European Union seeking counsel on federal US privacy legislation, I'm processing their personal data. My obligations do not stop just because it is a European Union resident accessing a US law firm's website, right? Now, there's nuances to that. If you want specifics, you can book a call with me. But the value of doing this video, and this will probably be the last one that we look at because I'm planning to do more privacy and practice videos. But I guess the overall takeaway is privacy is complex, okay? It is complex, and breaking down the nuances that apply to a specific organization, there's a lot of factors that influence it, even for an organization like my own that is a law firm. I have obligations whether I process the personal data of 2 people or 10 people. I have obligations, and I need to make sure that I meet those obligations. So I hope you enjoyed this very simple audit. If you have more questions or you liked this audit and you would like me to do a review of other consent management platforms, we can do that as well. Generally, when I have been soliciting information from vendors, they generally send me their technical specification documents to help me understand how the management platform actually works. What we've reviewed today is just what's being offered on the website, and I've actually been able to take some information away about how it works, particularly of importance the fact that the banner is customizable. The value of this is because the obligations when it comes to collecting cookies varies depending on geography, and a company's obligations don't end just because they're headquartered in a specific country, like myself, because I'm a District of Columbia attorney. So I really hope you enjoyed this privacy and practice video number 2. We're going to continue privacy and practice videos, and if you like this type of content, subscribe and I will see you in another review.